Welcome to magiccse by Eezytutorials. To watch the same content in Tamil, click the link in the description box. In this video, we are going to learn what is meant by key and what are the types of keys. With examples, we'll be seeing. So let us see what is a key. You are having a table. In that table, you are having many columns. We call the columns as attributes, and we have many rows. We call the rows as tuples or records, right? So in this table, you want to have a single column or a group of column or single attribute or group of attribute that will be uniquely able to identify a record or tuple or row. That is called as key. So if you are seeing the example, it will be more clear. For here we are considering throughout this video, we will be seeing different types of key. So we are considering two tables. Let us consider the first table. Student table. This is course table. So here you are having many columns: student ID, name, date of birth, gender, address, email, course ID, etc. So in this, which attribute will be able to uniquely identify a particular student? That is called as key. Excuse me. And apart from this use for unique identification, you have one more use of key, that is it will establish a relationship between the tables or between attributes. So while we are seeing the type like foreign key, you will be able to understand this point clearly. Now we will be moving on to what are the types of keys. So there are many types of keys: super key, candidate key, primary key, secondary key, foreign key, composite key, compound key, and so on. So we are going to see one by one. So initially, before getting into the implementation, opening an SQL, creating the table, setting the primary keys, foreign keys, etc. Before that, you have to know what are the types of the key and what are the rules applied. Then only you have to pick which is the primary key and you have to fix which is the foreign key, and then you have to go for implementation. So this theoretical part is important for choosing the right primary key. So if you want to choose the right primary key, you have to know what is super key, what is candidate key. You have to pick that. Then only you have to move to the next step. So the first step is, or the first type of key is super key. So what is meant by super? Super means everything is present. You call it a super. Same way here, super key means in a table which possible keys are available. All possible set of keys. It can be a single key or single column or a group of columns which can act as key. Which are the attribute or group of attributes that can act as a key? The entire set together is called a super key. So all possible set of keys that can be attributes, that can be one single attribute or a group of attributes. Those attributes should uniquely identify the record or tuple in a table. That is what you call it a super key. So here consider the student table. Here student ID can uniquely identify a record or a row. Same way an email ID alone will also be unique, right? So every person will be having unique email ID. So email ID can also be acting as a key. So you can consider that as a super key. Then these are single attributed keys. You can also have a combination of attributes like name and address together will be able to uniquely identify a record. So name, address, email also can be. Then student ID, name. Likewise, all possibilities can be grouped, and that is called a super key. So you can have one or more super keys added here as well. So these are the super keys. So super key means this is a set of keys. Super key means it will be a set of keys. All possible attributes, a single attribute or group of attributes that can uniquely identify a record or tuple in a table is called super key. So first, initially, if you want to choose a primary key, you have to identify what are the super keys. From the super key, you have to choose a set of minimal keys, and that minimal keys is called candidate key. So the minimal set of the attribute which will be able to uniquely recognize the record, and one more condition, it should not be null. So both the conditions should be satisfied, and you have to choose some attributes. Those attributes can be considered as the candidate key. One important thing, so here are my list of super keys, right? So here are my list of super keys. So here in the super keys, if I am choosing this as a candidate key, I cannot choose. Why? Because Inside the candidate key, you should not have a super key as its subset. For example, name, address, email. Email itself is a key. So you cannot choose this as a candidate key. Same way student ID and name. Here student ID is separately a key. So a candidate key should not have the subset of the candidate key should not be a super key. So you should not have any other super key inside the subset. Then you have to discard it. So that is called candidate key. In super key, you don't have any rules. Only one thing, it should the combination of attributes should uniquely identify a tuple or record. That is the 1B constraint. Whereas in candidate key, out of super key, you are going to select some set of keys that is somewhat minimal. So here the possible candidate keys can be student ID, name, then name and address. You cannot choose these two. I told the reason already. So these are the possible candidate keys. So from the available candidate key, you can choose one key as a primary key. So primary key should uniquely identify the record or tuple in a table. Apart from that, how to choose based on which criteria I can choose this as a primary key out of this. So you'll be having a question, right? So you have a rule. So 3 points you have to consider. So which attributes value will always be unique. You don't have repeated duplicate values. It should be always unique. So that can be one rule. The next rule is it should not have a null value. Always without null it should be. Then it should be never changed or very rarely changed. So which attribute is satisfying these 3 rules, then you can choose that as a primary key. Suppose I am considering email ID can be considered as a primary key. So if I am thinking of that, it will be never or very rarely changed, but you can have null values, right? There can be, suppose this is a database or table for a student of a 10th standard. So the 10th standard student may not be creating an email ID so far. There is a chance, right? So null values are possible for this column. So comparatively, comparing to email ID, the student ID is very minimal, and it will be never or rarely changed because the college or the school will be providing this ID. So it will not be changed for 99%. So this rule is satisfied. Then always the ID is given in a unique way. You don't give duplicates. One ID will be given for one student only. So it will be unique, and without ID you will not allow a student inside the classroom. So this student ID can be chosen as the primary key for this example. So based on the satisfaction of these rules, you can choose one key as a primary key from the set of candidate key. So the chosen key should uniquely identify the record and it should obey these rules. And notation for representing the primary key is with the help of underline. So the corresponding key, if you are putting an underline below that attribute or column name, then it is a depiction that it is a primary key. So this is a primary key. So next one is secondary or alternate key. So from the candidate key set, you chose one key as primary key, no, and you left out few without choosing, no. Those left out keys are called secondary or alternate keys. Suppose you are copying this table and you are removing some columns and you are going to use it for some other purpose. For example, I am going to have a game or something like that. So I don't have student ID. I'm removing this, the same column, the same table I'm copying, and I'm discarding the student ID. So out of this, now I want to choose a primary key. So what you can do, so the left out keys other than the primary key are called secondary or alternate key. So here email and name address together are not chosen as the primary key from the candidate key set. So candidate key set will be having the minimal key, it should not be null. We saw the descriptions, no? So we have chosen this candidate key. The left out primary key from the candidate key set is called alternate or secondary key. Suppose I can have email or name, address for the next table or some other scenarios. For backup purpose, the secondary or alternate key will be useful. So the keys which are not chosen as the, which is not chosen as the primary key, and it is a candidate key. from the candidate key, the left out primary key is the attributes which are left out and not chosen as the primary key is called secondary key or alternate key. So here email, name, address is the remaining candidate key. It is not chosen for primary key. So this will be acting as the secondary or alternate key. The next one is foreign key. So a primary key of another table can be chosen as the foreign key. So first rule for choosing the foreign key is it should be a primary key for another table. So I am having two tables, student ID, student table and course table. Course ID is the primary key of this course table and the student ID is the primary key of the student table. Now I can choose this course ID as the foreign key. So why I can choose? Because this is the primary key of another table. So foreign key is generally helpful for establishing a relationship between two tables. So these two tables will be connected logically, not physically. The records will be separately stored, but logically you can make a connection between that. So attribute of this table should be pointing to this another table in which it should be a primary key. That is a rule. You don't have hard and fast rules for primary key. Foreign key can have null values. Foreign key can have duplicate values. Because here in this example, there can be a student. So after 2 days only, I am going to finalize my course. So at that period, the course ID will be null. Same way, 5 or 10 students can choose the same course. So same course can be chosen by many students. So duplicate values should be allowed or can be allowed in the foreign key. You don't have any restriction for null values or duplicate values in the case of foreign key. So these are the rules for foreign keys. How to create a foreign key and how to create a primary key we'll be seeing in a separate video. These are the basic types of keys and you have few more keys. So just have the knowledge or terminologies so that when some clients are very technically speaking, you will be able to catch them. So composite key means any key which is having more than one attribute. So here name, address together can be considered as a composite key. So more than one attributes, 2 or more attributes together you are having as a key means that is called composite key. Compound key means it is a set of keys, set of primary keys. For example, in this table, student ID and course ID can be called as compound key. So what is this compound key? The set of keys in which every attribute is a primary key for some table. So 2 or more keys, that should be primary key. So here student ID and course ID can be acting as a compound key. Why? Because student ID is the primary key for this student table. Course ID is the primary key for this table. So for a backup purpose or for some referential purpose, the compound keys will be created and it will be stored separately and maintained by DB admins. So you have to know this terminologies. Then prime attributes and non-prime attributes. So if any attribute is a part of a candidate key, it is called prime attribute because it is important, we mean. So here name can be a prime attribute, email can be a prime attribute. You have to make it safe. You have to collect it, you should not miss it. Like that you can have in your project application. The prime attribute means it is somewhat important. Non-prime attribute means it is not part of the candidate key and you can give somewhat less importance. For example, date of birth, gender, these details are non-prime attributes because they are not the part of the candidate keys. So these are the basic terminologies. In the upcoming videos, we will be learning how to implement this primary and foreign key. What are the different possible ways we'll be seeing. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.
Hope you like this video. Kindly like, share and subscribe. Do post your valuable comments. Check for useful links in the description box. For more technical videos, stay tuned to magiccse by Eezytutorials. Thank you.